Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's weekly market outlook. Today, we are going to look at DXY, Euro USD, US500, gold, oil, and US BTC USD. Sorry. Now, you also need to know that this is just my personal trading idea and not a financial advice. You need to do your own research, analysis, and also manage risk before taking any financial decision or trading the financial markets. All right, very important to get started. I built my trading framework around three key pillars: macro fundamental analysis, sentiment analysis, and technical analysis. And we are going to look at all these three key pillars one after another, breaking down the charts to see what we have in the markets in the coming week. So, starting with the macro fundamental outlook, this week is likely to be driven mainly by US inflation, PPI, and the Fed Chair Kevin Walsh's testimony. These are the biggest market moving events on the economic calendar. The US labor market is gradually slowing compared to previous months, but it remains relatively resilient. That means the Federal Reserve is under less pressure from employment, while inflation continues to be the bigger concern. Inflation is still above the Fed's long-term target of 2%. So market expect the Fed to remain a cautious and relatively hawkish stance until there is stronger evidence that inflation is moving sustainably lower. On the geopolitical side, tension in the Middle East remain an important risk, especially because they could affect global oil supply and energy prices. Any unexpected headlines could quickly create volatility across gold, oil, and the US dollar in the coming weeks. So we need to pay attention to what is happening in the middle, especially the headlines, what President Trump is saying, and so on and so forth in the coming week. Then the sentimental analysis aspect of these markets. Going into the week, I see overall market sentiment as slightly risk off to neutral. Investors are waiting for the inflation data before making aggressive positions. If inflation comes in hotter than expected, then the US dollar could strengthen. Gold may initially struggle, while US 500 may face selling pressure. Okay, if CPI comes out hotter next week, then this may be the possible effects on the market. But if it should come out softer than expected, then the US dollar could weaken. US 500 could rally, while gold and Bitcoin may find buyers. So expect increased volatility, especially from Tuesday onwards. Okay, so then let's look at go into the technical aspect of the market and look at what you have on DXY. So right on my chart here is DXY on the monthly time frame. Okay. So my technical trade ideas, these are based on my monthly, weekly, daily 4-hour supply and demand trading framework. DSY, higher time frame bias, in my own opinion, remains bullish. The monthly, weekly, and daily structure still favors buyers. So I'm looking for price to retrace into demand before looking for longer opportunities. So my trade idea on this pair is to buy. Then how is that going to be possible? Let's look at the chart. If you look at the DS1, the monthly time frame, you can see that price having reject breaking out from this consolidation zone to the upside. I look forward that a possible pullback or retracement to these demands on monthly time frame will give me a better buying opportunity. Okay, so on the monthly time frame, that's what I'm looking at. Then on the weekly, the same thing too. You can see market on the weekly time frame having broken out from this high, then giving us a higher low, a higher high. So any pullback to this demand zone will give me a good opportunity to buy. This is a weekly demand zone. So a pullback to this zone will be a good opportunity for me to step into the market and buy. Remember, in all this, the macro fundamental outcome of the news events we have next week will also help me to decide on when to buy and when not to buy. Okay. Then going down to the daily time frame. On daily time frame, you can see that even the monthly, weekly zones also correspond with this daily demand zone. So that makes this particular zone a very suitable zone to look for a buy. So that is why we're patiently waiting to see if market will retrace back into this zone, then I'll buy. If that zone should fail, we also have another demand zone down here to look for opportunity to buy. All right. So let's look at the next pair on our list, which is Euro USD. Euro USD starting from the monthly time frame. Euro USD, a stronger US dollar generally puts pressure on the Euro USD. You all know that. So I will continue looking for rallies into supply to find sell opportunities on Euro USD. So my general bias on this Euro USD in the coming week is to look for a sell opportunity. Now looking at the chart here, you can see that Euro USD, after mitigating this monthly supply zone here, begin to retrace back. You had a period of consolidation, then you see a break to the downside, creating this supply zone here on the monthly time frame. So a pullback into that supply zone will give me a good opportunity to sell Euro USD on the monthly time frame. Going down to the weekly time frame as well, you can also see that on the weekly time frame, market now, after giving us this shift in market structure here, this was market go creating highs, highs, and higher lows, and all of a sudden you have this shift in market structure here, and then a break of structure here. So a tracement into this weekly supply zone will give me a good opportunity to look for a sell. Okay, so in the coming week, I'll look forward to see if Euro USD will rally back up, and then I'll look for a sell. Now going back to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame also, the same thing here. If you check your daily market structure properly, you will see that Euro USD have been creating higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and suddenly we had this break market structure shift here. Okay, so market now turning bearish, and then we had this lower high here, and then we also have this break of structure here on the daily time frame. So as a result of this, what I'll be looking at for, in conjunction with the macro fundamental outlook we just looked at, I'll be looking for a sell on Euro USD. So I will patiently observe the market to see any pushback really into this supply zone will give me a good selling opportunity on Euro USD on the daily time frame. So that is what I'm looking at for in the coming week. Okay. Now let's look at the next pair, which is US 500. S&P 500. So S&P 500 on the higher time frame bias remains bullish overall, but a short-term correction is possible. The long-term trend remains healthy. However, with CPI and earnings this week, I wouldn't be surprised to see a pullback into higher time frame demand before continuation to the upside. So my trade idea generally remains buy after a retracement. So on the monthly time frame, if you look at the chart properly, you can see market creating highs, higher highs and higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then markets are now within this ranging zone. You can see this month time frame trying to create a breakout there, but you are going to pay attention to what happens next week. Okay, so on the weekly time frame, you also look at the market here. You can see on the weekly time frame, market is trying to price is trying to break to the all-time high, but I will not just jump in here to chase the highs. Okay, rather I will patiently wait to see if there will be a pullback before I make that entry, and in that case, on weekly time frame, I see here to be a stable zone to look for a buy. Okay, while on the daily time frame, I see this zone here, this demand zone here, as a stable zone to look for a buy. If market should pull back here, then I'll look for a buy within this daily zone. If I don't see any pullback here, then I'll patiently wait to see if we have any breakout here, then any newly created demand around here will become my target zone to look for a buy. Okay, that is what I'll be looking at for on US500. Now I'm going to the next one on our list, which is gold. Gold on the monthly time frame. Gold on the monthly time frame here, personally, in my own opinion, remains bullish, because if you look at gold very, you can see this strong rally to the upside. There is only in the last few months that we begin to experience this retracement or slight pullback here. And if you can look at the market very well on my screen, you see that price now is within this monthly demand zone. And this month's time frame, as you can see, the candle is trying to recover to the upside. We have this monthly supply there. So gold remains supported by increasing institutional adoption and ongoing geopolitical uncertainty. However, if inflation surprises to the upside and the US dollar rallies, then gold may first retrace into demand before continuing higher. So I prefer buying from discounts rather than chasing highs. And my trade idea generally is a buy after pullback into demand zone. So to do that, I can drop down to a more lower time frame to see what the market structure looks like. On the weekly time frame here, you can see markets dropping back to downside, and within this weekly zone, I don't see any trading opportunity here on the weekly time frame, so I can still drop down further to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, you can see market rejected from this previous demand zone here and then push back up into this daily supply, rejected back into this zone, and now you can see a somehow sign of consolidation. But if you study the market very well, you see that this is a kind of continuation pattern that this that gold is creating now. Okay, so I would like to see if gold can rally back into this supply here. I will look for a short. All these depend on what will be the outcome of next week news event, CPI news event, and then Fed share testimony. Okay, so let's pay attention to what will be the outcome of those news events. On the monthly here, the only viable zone here I'm looking at is either we wait for a rally to the upside, then any newly created demand zone around here will give us opportunity to buy. Okay, anything outside that, we can also hold on to see if gold will return back down. Then if you look for any form of shift in market structure, let's say gold return back to this zone again, okay, back into this zone, give us a shift in market structure, okay, market structure shift here. Any newly created zone around here will give us opportunity to long. Okay, so what we need to do here is to be patient. I will patiently wait to observe what happens in the market than rushing into taking trades and then you end up losing your money. Okay, so that's all I see here on gold. All right, now let's look at the next pair on our list, which is US oil. US oil on the higher time frame. US oil here on the higher time frame, on my own personal opinion, remains bullish. You may ask, how is it bullish? You can see markets here after this higher low, break of structure here to the upside, higher high, now creating a higher low, and then rejecting from this supply zone. So these markets you see here, retracing down here, is a result of the easing of geopolitical tension in the Middle East. But we never can tell. You know, Middle East tension continues to support oil prices, and I'm watching for price to respect a higher time frame demand zones. After further escalation in any further escalation in the region could accelerate upside momentum, while meaningful de-escalation or a sustained ceasefire could trigger a correction. So my trade idea generally is to do what? Buy with slightly neutral bias. The reason why we're looking for a buy is that gold is now within very close to our monthly demand zone. You can see here, this is our monthly demand zone, and price is now very close to this zone. So any drop to this zone will give me a possible rally to the upside. Okay. Then on the weekly time frame as well, you can see this weekly zone was not completely or properly mitigated. So I will watch to see if price can pull back to this demand zone, weekly demand zone, then I may look for what? A buy. On the daily, also, you can see that weekly zone also corresponding with this daily demand zone, which was not completely or fully mitigated based on my own opinion. Okay, so any pullback to this zone, I'll be looking for a buy. Last week, price traded into this supply zone, which was our previous mark zone, and you can see already the trade is going properly, it's going well, it's profitable. So what I will do is to see if price can get to this demand zone again, I'll look for a rally to this other supply zone being created here. So that's what I'm looking at for here on the US oil. Then BTC USD being the last on our list. In the coming week, starting from the monthly time frame, okay, higher time frame bias generally, in my own opinion, still remains bullish, because if you look at BTC here, we had a break of structure here, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, a break of structure here, then higher high, then a possible higher low. And if you study the market very well, if you understand your Fibonacci properly, you see that markets already has retraced into a what, 50%. You see, these are 50% line. Market already traced into a what, discounted price zone. 50% from 50, anything below 50% is a discounted price zone, and it also corresponds with this demand zone here. Okay, so right now I'm looking forward to a buy on BTC USD, and to do that, I can either decide to, you can, depending if you have the liquidity, you have enough money in your account to hold this position, you can look for a buy at this point. But I think if you want to trade, I don't think it would be wise to take this kind of position unless you have enough money to hold the position. Okay, if not, I will prefer you go down to lower time frame and look for a pullback, then you buy. So retracement into demand would provide better buying opportunities, in my own personal opinion. Also, mind that if sentiment improves after the inflation data, Bitcoin could continue higher. Very important. Whatever happens next week during the news event will determine how all these assets or uh, pairs are going to react in the coming week. So now on the monthly time frame, you can see that within demand zone, have a supply here, looking for a buy, going down to the weekly time frame. Also, I don't there is still a kind of ranging market here. You can't simply just start longing here and put in your stop loss here. So I will not do it here on the weekly. I'll go down to daily. Then on the daily, you can see price is within this daily supply zone. So which means there could be a possibility that by next week we will experience a pullback to this demand zone before any form of continuation, if actually market moves in that direction. Okay, I am not predicting what will happen. I'm only trying to create a scenario where if I see this happen, this is what I will do. Okay, so if by next week market pulls back into this demand zone, I will definitely look for opportunities to do what, buy, and then we begin to target this supply zone up there. So that's what I'm looking for in the coming week. If you also want to trade this pullback here, if it happens by next week, then well, in that case, you drop down to 4 hours time frame. If you drop down to 4 hours, you can begin to look for a shift in market structure, something like this, and then a pullback to any newly created supply zone around here. Then you can short. Okay, that is what I look forward to do. If you also look at this particular demand zone, it also corresponds with the daily demand zone we have right here. Okay, so that makes that zone a viable zone to look for a trade. All right, so that is all I have for you today. You trade responsibly in the coming week. Make sure you don't over risk your money. Okay, as you step into next week, trade what protect your capital and stay disciplined, and I will see you in the next market update. Trade what the market confirms, not what you hope will happen. Thank you.